Hi, you've reached Jane and Laura. If you're hearing this message, it means you phoned us. Why did you phone us? If you phoned us, you clearly don't know us. Message us, email us, whatever. Don't do this again. This was your own mistake. I hope you've learned something. But leave a message after the tone. One of us might notice the blinking light, and then one of us might also overcome the ADHD and actually click play on that message at some point, assuming we can work out why the machine is flashing when we've never used it before. Okay, bye. Greetings, strangers queer and pleasant. I'm not Laura Kate Magnet Dale.
And I'm not Jane Aerith Magnet Dale. And welcome to another episode of Queer and Pleasant Strangers. It's a podcast for two queer trans women. That's us. We're wifey types. Have a bit of a silly catch-up about stuff we've done, media consumption-wise in the week, and do silly voices and skits and stuff.
And one of us is very sleepy again.
I'm a weird mix of physically energetic, mentally soup.
Soup.
My body is going, lots of things happen, fight or flight, and brain is going, do. I've been put on a spinny thing. Brain is gone.
And I imagine listening to some fairly repetitive, like, doot-de-doot.
I mean, thankfully not, and we'll get to that in a bit, but not too much listening to repetitive doot-de-doots. So yeah, should we jump into... This is usually what we've played.
What have we played? What have we interacted with in an interactive manner?
Yeah, this fits better here than it does in watched or listened to.
Yeah.
I went to a theme park today for no particular reason other than I am an adult and I had the realization I'm an adult. I can just...
You're a self-employed adult who works very hard.
I'm a self-employed adult who can just pick a random Tuesday when school hasn't quite finished for people yet, so it'll be relatively quiet, and by myself go to a theme park and make use of things like the single rider queue to be like, hello, I'm a Billy No Mates, can I go first? Oh, you've got one seat to fill, I'll sit there, please. So I went to Thorpe Park, which is one of the UK themed parks.
One of the many Tussauds Group owned theme parks, yeah?
The Merlin Group, I believe.
Oh, the Merlin Group.
Yeah, the Merlin Group.
They still own Madame Tussauds, though, right?
I assume so. I think so. I don't know. I know that Thorpe Park is Merlin. I know that much. And I might as well.
I'm out of touch. I'm very old.
I wouldn't have known who owned them if not for the fact that, and I'll start with this before I get onto any of the specific rides. I was quite impressed at the accessibility stuff that was in place at Thorpe Park.
They haven't quite gone Disney yet.
They've not quite gone Disney, who, for anyone who's not aware, have, in the last 6 months, to my understanding, suddenly gone, too many people who don't need it are abusing our accessibility accommodation system as do a sneaky, here's a hack to get on rides faster, and therefore Disney's response was to completely obliterate the disability access scheme for 90% of disabled people. Really fucking shit. But the system that applies at Thorpe Park is something called the Ride Access Pass, which I did some Googling around and some searching to work out what goes on. But basically, there is a group called Nimbus that will independently assess paperwork about disability and will give you a little card that's like, hey, these are things I struggle with, but also Merlin Group will then recognise that and issue you something called a Ride Access Pass that is like, hello, this does not, list any identifiable information about my disabilities. All it tells you, the theme park, is the ride accommodations that would be helpful for me and has a little photo of me so you can go, yep, that's the person that needs those accommodations. And for Thorpe Park, there's a couple of things that means. First of all, they give you a little bit of paper when you arrive if you go to the accessibility area that is just every ride at the park with little tick boxes of what things might you need to know about accessibility for these rides? Which ones have strobe lights? Which ones can be accessed step-free? Which ones have live scare actors you might need to deal with? Or claustrophobic spaces? Or, dark corridors you're going to have to deal with? I was like, that's nice. Information is good. Lots of good video information in advance you can check out that's like, hello, here is video of entrance to park and where you will go to get accessibility things and where you'll sort of come back over here and this is where you'll go after that. And I'm like, cool, thank you, information in advance. But the main thing they have in place is you've got a little paper card that you can take and go, hello, I would like to ride this ride, please, and that queue is looking very overwhelming. And they go, okay, what's the estimated wait time for the ride now? It's like, 45 minutes. We will let you just go on the ride now, and we will write 45 minutes from now on your card, and that's the next time you can ride a ride with this. So it's, you just go ride the ride now, and then you go do the amount of waiting time you would have done in the main queue somewhere else. So you can just sit and have a nice sit in the sun, and not be in the middle of a crowded queue with people all around you, snaking around you, talking and being loud. And I'm like, that's very good. It's very appreciated. It is very similar to the system that Disney had in place before they gutted it, except they've swapped the order around of when you do the virtual wait outside of the queue. I don't think either way is particularly better or worse, it's just different. But really helpful. It was really, really nice. So, I went on many theme park rides and roller coasters today.
Roller coasters!
Let's start. Let me pull up the list. Let's talk about the fancy new one that opened very recently at Thorpe Park. Hyperia, which I got to ride on 3 times today, their big fancy new coaster. And it is marketed as like, I believe it is currently the world's tallest and most looped roller coaster. It's not as tall as Stealth, but Stealth is a propulsion. There's some distinction. It's like, oh, we shoot you very fast. That's different from roller coaster that has however many things it does. It's very tall, very fast, many big loops. I'm going to talk about really specific niche stuff that stuck with me, and it's weird
Please,
things.
info dump.
Yeah, sometimes it's something very small and weird that will bring me joy, but. For a roller coaster with as many, like, corkscrew inversions and big upside-down loops and things as this has, I am fascinated by the fact that it is a lap bar as opposed to, like, big harness that comes down from over the shoulders. It's just bar that pulls down onto your lap. And that it feels as secure and comfortable as it does. That the whole top of my body is not encased in anything, and yet I did not at any point feel at all unsecure while doing big, spinny, upside-down loop-de-loops.
I mean, I guess you could... I guess it's based on where they know the G-forces are going to be and how that's going to affect you.
Yeah.
Is your seat at least slightly shaped so that you're very much in it?
Oh, yeah, very much. It's a bit of a bucket of a seat, a little bit, but it's...
I imagine that probably helps at least keep you somewhat contained.
Yeah, it is a roller coaster that, like, it has a very big climb at the start, and it doesn't waste any time. Like, there are certain roller coasters where it feels like they've deliberately slowed down the climb up the big thing to give you your big moment of tension. This is like, nah, no worry, we're just go, straight in. I got to ride on the front row of that. Definitely enjoyed the front row. It's one that there is nothing in your field of view if you're in the front row, and all the wind rushing through your face is like...
I am flying.
It felt like I was going faster, despite the fact I clearly wasn't, but also, it felt like the most stable and not rattly seats on the thing that I tried, and I was like, cool, best view, feel like I'm going fastest, feel least rattled about, this is great.
Yes.
So, Hyperia, I get the hype, I understand why people are excited about this one. It's a very smooth coaster. It feels longer than some of the ones at Thorpe Park. It's one where you feel like you get your time's worth out of it. I also rode Colossus. Not a bad coaster. I enjoy it.
Isn't that the one that's like 8 seats wide?
No, that's Nemesis Inferno or Swarm Mate.
I vaguely remember seeing a trailer for something, I think, at Thorpe Park.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were saying Colossus.
But yes, Colossus. Colossus, not a bad ride. I like the number of, like, corkscrews it does. Theoretically, I like Colossus. It is an old roller coaster, and it feels it. It is the most of any ride I rode today that felt like my head was getting thrown side to side, bish bash bosh, against the quite hard headrest.
Yeah.
It was the most... If anything in this was gonna give me any roller coaster was gonna give me a concussion, it feels like it would be Colossus. It's not a bad roller coaster, but it's definitely the one that I'm like, if I'm too old to ride anything here, it might be Colossus. I might have to leave Colossus to the 15-year-olds who are made of rubber still. Everything else there was fine. That's the one, and it wasn't the speed, it wasn't anything else. It was just, oh, my poor head, I'm all bounced about. It's the only one that I rode once and went, once I think is plenty. I don't think I need to queue up multiple rides of that today. On the other hand, Nemesis Inferno, absolutely great. Love that fucking roller coaster.
Is this a sequel to original Nemesis or a modification?
It's a different ride, and I don't know what I think it's the same company made both coasters,
right? Okay.
And wanted to capitalize on people like Nemesis, so we named it's part of the Nemesis series of roller coasters. And I know a lot of people dislike Inferno because they compare it directly to Nemesis and go, well, Nemesis is better. I'm like, if I've ridden Nemesis, I don't fucking remember. It would have been a long time ago.
I haven't been on either.
But Inferno, it's one where you've got, like, dangly legs, which is always nice. Of the ones that are, like, big over the torso harnesses, it's the most comfortable, the one that I did. One of the best ones for just sustained, continuous G-force. Again, this is me being, like, in my 30s and going to a roller coaster park. My dodgy knee, the one that feels like changes in the barometric pressure.
Yeah.
I could feel the G-forces on that knee specifically. I was I wasn't worried anything was going to go wrong with it, but I was also like,
I'm aware of this.
Yeah, it was enough where I was like, if I needed to, like, reseat that knee, the G-forces here would probably pull it just enough apart to, like, get it back into place. Yeah, it's for one that is, like, your legs are dangling, the G-forces are very centered on your legs the whole time through. It's like, I can feel my legs.
I suppose that is the dangliest part, especially if you're like swishing from the top.
It really feels like what I imagine being Sonic the Hedgehog must feel like. Gotta go fast, lots of force on the legs.
It's funny you say that, because one of the things I really remember about going to Chessington World of Adventures was riding the vampire ride, going right up the front, and then just, like, miming running the whole way through.
If you were gonna do that, this would be the ride to do it with.
I'm zooming.
Yeah. Additionally, I can talk about Saw the Ride.
You saw the ride.
I did saw. I saw Saw the Ride. Saw the Ride is a fascinating ride where the speakers need to be turned up like 70% louder to actually be able to hear the fucking narrative of the ride. Because of anything this or The Walking Dead, and I'll talk about The Walking Dead in a minute, but it's one of maybe 2 or 3 things at Thorpe Park that really feel like they go for the level of theming that something like a Disney park would, where it's like, you've put some real effort into telling a story that the ride is part of.
Yeah.
And in this, it's very like, you walk through the queue area and like, there's a mannequin in a razor trap, and you get on the ride, and Jigsaw's like, I want to play a game, and there's a counter, it's like a minute and a half, it's however long the ride is, and I'm going to make you respect life. And then you do a roller coaster where you go past some blades and things. Fun fact about that, I was on the outside every time I rode it. It's like 4 seats wide, and if you're in the middle 2 seats, you might get absolutely drenched in water, because at one point, as you're making your way outside, you do a sort of upside-down spin, and there's just a man geysering. It's water, but it's meant to be like, I've been killed, blood is coming out of me, at you. So just suddenly there is a man covered in blood, and then someone's very wet in the middle of the ride.
Saw being, like, the one that's super narrative-heavy and 4 across feels like a weird choice. Because surely people in the middle are going to have a harder time seeing what the fuck is happening.
It didn't seem to be. It stops periodically to show you things. Like, it'll pause near the puppet and it'll talk to you for a bit. And then, like, you pause at the bottom of a hill and Jigsaw's like, your time's nearly up. Well, time to do a more than 90-degree drop, so you go slightly upside down and there's saw blades. Now you respect your life. They clearly put effort in on it. Is
it the original Saw actor?
Tough to tell.
Too quiet.
Too quiet. Turn the volume up. Look, it's cheesy, it's corny, you have to suspend your disbelief quite considerably.
Mm-hmm.
But I like that they committed to the stupid bit.
Right.
I've not got too many more to rattle through.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get through them as quick as I can. Samurai.
Yes, the Samurai used to be at Chessington. It was one of the few rides I've actually fallen asleep on.
I don't know if this is the same Samurai.
I believe so. There was a whole thing about the fact that they'd moved it.
I guess. Well, I only say
it's
this
a big
because
red uppy downy pole, right?
No. This is why I was like, I can't imagine you falling asleep on this. It's the closest that Thorpe Park has to something that I would see at like a local fun fair. Imagine there is a central point and like 5 or 6 spokes coming off of it.
Yeah,
that have
and
like
everyone
5
sits
seats.
down and you're slightly off the ground with it and it straps you over.
Yeah, it's not a pole that like goes up and down though. It's a circle of them and it starts spinning.
Yeah.
And brings you up in the air and then so you're on one of these spokes that is spinning around in a circle, but then also spinning forward and backward quite vigorously.
It's a bit like Hearts and Diamonds, but on a big swingy pole.
I don't know Hearts and Diamonds.
The thing where you're on the basically a washing drum at the theme, like a theme park, like a fairground.
Kind of. I don't know that I've ever ridden a ride where I've heard more people actively in the moment, like maybe a third of the way in, going, "Is it over? I want to get off." It just throws you violently backward and forward while spinning.
Yeah, the thing used to be like, as you were queuing for it, it was like, oh, this is more G's than you'll experience taking off in a spaceship. I'm like, I can believe it, but also, we had to wait a seriously long... We got all the way to the front of the queue, the one time I rode it. Then they were like, we're going to have to pause because someone was sick. So there was, detergent and sawdust and so forth while they sorted that out and then drying it off. And it was raining and we were already bored. And we got on it and then they were like, it needs to be full so that it's balanced before we can even start the damn thing. And I just sort of fell asleep and before I knew it, the ride was over.
Oh, so you fell asleep before it had begun?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay,
and then didn't wake up for most of it.
So midway through it happening, I can't imagine you falling asleep because... That ride, it's similar to Stealth, and I'll talk about Stealth in a minute. It's similar to Stealth in as much as the entire point is G-Force. Mm-hmm. But it's not, here is one burst of G-Force you can just sort of enjoy for what it is. It's, what if we applied G-Force in random directions, one after another? It is impossible to know where the next G-Force is going to throw you. It feels like you put, like something metal, like a penny, inside the washing machine accidentally. And it's just, every time it hits the walls, it's firing off in random directions. It should not be in there, but until that spin cycle completes, it's doing its thing.
And does that feel okay, given how old it is?
I put this in a similar realm to Colossus. I did it once. I don't regret having done it. I had a good time. I felt no desire to come back and repeat it later in the day. It was not on my I'll give this a second or third ride list. Samurai once was plenty. But on that note, Stealth, which is a roller coaster I didn't know I was going to be able to ride because, according to the website, it's like, oh, we're closing it for 2 days for planned maintenance, and this was day 2 of the planned maintenance. And then, like, halfway through the day, I thankfully heard someone mention it quick enough I could get over there before it got busy, going, oh, it's all Stealth's back on the list now, Stealth. So they've got an app, and thankfully the app was like, oh, waiting times. So yeah, for anyone who doesn't know Stealth, here is a big, upside down U shape, and we are going to go from 0 to 80 miles an hour in half a second, and just fire you right up the top of this thing, and then you come back down. And the entire ride is 4 seconds.
And it goes up at a flat, and you're on a waltzer thing? Is it something like that?
No, it's like a single lane, just row of train cars. And you get fired incredibly fucking fast forward. You go all the way to the top of this loop, and then you come back down the loop. And
the actual layout of the ride, it feels... There was another ride at Chessington that I think was called the Dragon or something. And it does a very similar thing of fire you super fast up a flat plane, and then you come back down on the other side. But that was in like a waltzer-type carriage. So you sort of hit the top and do like a bunch of little loops.
Nope, this is just...
Okay, so that's side-on. Yeah.
Side-on
Okay,
view. It's
I
literally
see.
just go up big U-shape and come back down.
It feels like someone playing Theme Park Worlds just sort of got bored. Look, okay, it's just enough. There's an open and close. I haven't got very much money. It goes in and out, and we set the speed very fast.
Yes. Having had a quick look, during the acceleration, it goes as high as 4.9 G, which is seemingly, it feels like a fucking fast number. It goes up to 80 miles an hour in what length of time? Basically no fucking time at all. It's not a ride I could necessarily recommend queuing a long time for. If you can, go single rider lane or something and get on it within 10 minutes, it is a phenomenal experience I am not moving to suddenly I'm 80 miles an hour. It is a hard sell in as much as the entire ride is 4 seconds. By virtue of we accelerated you so fast it's over. And it can be worth it. I would struggle to justify the queue time too regularly for it. But I do love suddenly I'm going fast enough that I feel like if I were an anime character I would be starting to blur. And that's an enjoyable feeling. The Swarm is one that I very much enjoy.
Yeah?
It is one where, rather than you are connected to a rail below you or a sort of rail sort of above your seat, the thing you're connected to that is riding on the rail is to your side. So there's 4 seats side by side, and in between the 2 pairs of 2 is the thing connected to the rail. And as such, it can do a lot of things that feel like incredibly near misses. Flying through the middle of a billboard with a gap in the middle of it, because there's no overhang or underhang that needs to be accounted for.
Yeah.
It's one of the smoothest rides there, in terms of just general feel. It does a lot of really cool loops and inversions, and again, because of the fact it can go seemingly so close to all sorts of objects, it's visually very interesting to do. It's one that does the best at the illusion that a lot of rides there try and do of, here is you bobbing and weaving and doing near misses against various props. Last couple, The Walking Dead, the ride, which is it's another one of the ones that feels like they tried reasonably hard at theming. It's very fucking sensory intense. Not the ride itself, the bits around the ride. You walk through some very dark corridors with emergency sirens blaring and very little light and occasional flashes and people screaming, zombies outside, run, they're gonna get you, they've broken through containment in the zone letter you're currently in. And this is all just the fucking walk to get on the ride. The first time I went on it, I was the only one told to go through a door, and it was just me for a solid 3 minutes walking through corridors. At one point, I couldn't see where the next bit of corridor was. Right. I got lost because it was too dark, and there were just flashing lights everywhere. I was like, I don't know what's going on. For what was eventually it's one of the longer rides on the park. You get your time's worth out of being on it. It's not too much of doing loops or banking around or flipping around or anything. You ride around in the dark in a sort of Space Mountain-esque, you're in the dark kind of thing, with occasional stops for story happening where you've stopped to try and refuel your vehicle and there's someone everyone check that the person next to you hasn't gotten bitten. Okay, oh no, there's zombies coming, quick, we've got to restart the car, and then the car is stalling and you can feel the little train car you're in sort of stutter. It's no, okay, we got to wait. And even when you get off the ride, the intense theming and tension don't go away, because they start being get out quick, there's an exit to the right, go through the cafeteria, and you get in the cafeteria, there's like a whole little maze to get out of this cafeteria,
Oh, wow.
and even then, there's like a long walkway of dark corridors still to get out with them being like, run, they're right behind you. I'm like,
Too much drama.
I just wanted to ride the ride. Second time through, once I knew what to anticipate in the dark corridors, I had a much chiller time with it. It's the first time in there by myself and not with other people in the corridors. It was a lot. I had a good time. I enjoyed the ride. I went on it more than once, but
Yeah.
And the last one is called Ghost Train. And previously was Darren Brown's Ghost Train, and then has been rethemed since. So the plot is different now, but the mechanics are generally the same. So, you go to a train station, and there's a man who's like, they use I think it's called Pepper's Ghost illusion.
The sort of see-through projector off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To have like a man appear out of a puff of smoke who's like, some billionaires tried to do a fucking ritual in a tomb underneath a church at this so-and-so train station. They're trying to make themselves live forever. But they all died, probably. Anyway, time to get on the train that definitely won't stop at the haunted station. And then you go sit on a very good replica London Underground tube train with real actors doing a story that, without getting too into depth, involves an amount of, like, you go to various stops and different stations, and there might be some demon possession that occurs, and some scare actors who seem to appear out of fucking nowhere. Very impressive. You somehow came through a panel in a wall in like a half a second while a light was out, ready to just be in someone's face when the time came. Great use of black light to go, oh shit, there's a whole lot more going on in the room you're in than you were aware of. Some very clever technical stuff going on in terms of setting up a little haunted house experience that has a lot of like mechanically interesting technical surprises to it. I was quite impressed on a technical level at how they pulled off the things they did, and bless them, the plot was cheesy as hell. It's some of the most like pantomime level overacting I have ever seen on a haunted attraction.
Excellent.
I really respect it. I really respect how absolutely not taking itself seriously this quite honestly spooky at points thing was. So yeah, that was my day at Thorpe Park. I went on lots of roller coasters.
You did.
And had a frozen fizzy drink.
Yay.
And it was a very sunny day, and I rode lots of roller coasters.
Yay.
Yeah.
You're quite pink.
I'm probably a little
quite
pink. It was a very sunny day. I had anticipated, it'll be dry, it'll be not too windy, but it'll be grey, And then I get there and it's like, nicest weather we've had this year. Fucking deal with it. I was like, okay,
I guess I'm just melting now.
yeah, didn't need this hoodie.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what about you? What have you played this week?
I have finished Cat Quest 2. Streamed that all the way through. I talked about it a little while ago when we first started. Really good game. Really enjoyed it. Definitely more in depth than the original. It's very adorable. It relies very heavily on puns, which I super appreciate. It's a nice, lightweight, it's an RPG in the sense of it's almost like a cut-down brawler, like Cult of the Lamb, because it is very much slash and roll and hope for the best.
Yeah,
there's a magic system in it. You can futz around with armor. There's probably more to discover than I got into, but I was impressed that I managed to stay streaming for that long, because I'm not usually great at sticking to a theme or just going, I'm bored now, I want to play this off stream so I can see the end. But yeah, I had a really good time playing through that. Did that in about like 6 weeks worth of streaming. Had a lovely time. It was an adorable experience. I feel like it's set up for Cat Quest 3 quite interestingly.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see where that goes. But yeah, it's a good game, and all the better for the fact that it was a freebie, which I very much appreciated. But yeah, I am curious to see what happens next in that story, because it feels like the third one is actually going to be a little bit different. Because if nothing else, I think Cat Quest 2 reuses a lot of the map from the original Cat Quest.
Yeah.
And in that respect, it can feel a little bit like, okay, we've got the money we made from Cat Quest 1, we're gonna, like, maybe go a little bit bigger, and it'll be more like what we had actually planned originally.
Yeah.
But now we've got the budget to do something a bit more.
Not so bad if you play 1 and 2 a little way apart from each other, but if you went straight from 1 into 2, it would probably be more noticeable.
Probably. Like, I recognize this map, I recognize the place names and stuff, and I appreciate all the puns.
Yeah.
It had some interesting new powers, interesting magic system. It was obviously a co-op, not that I played it in co-op, where you can, either play solo and readily switch between the two characters, or, each pick a character and make it your own and go on a fun adventure with a kitty and a doggo. And yeah, it's pretty adorable, and I had a good time. What about you? Have you played anything else?
Not really. It's been more of a watch heavy week generally for me.
You've been busy watching. Well, I will just talk briefly then about Deep Rock Galactic Season 5.
Ooh, is this recently begun?
A couple of days ago, I think.
Okay.
So the Steam version has the new season already started. I think Game Pass has got to wait another 9 days for some reason. I have no idea what that's all about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been playing the Steam version, and it was surprisingly easy to just copy my save across from one to the other.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes, because initially I was like, I've put like 800, 600, 800 hours into DRG, and if I move over to Steam, because the Steam version doesn't have crossplay with any other version, but most of the people I know who own that game own it on Steam.
Oh, that means I'm gonna not be able to crossplay with you anymore.
We're gonna play together again, don't you?
I know, it just means I have to move away from where I didn't know I was moving away from where I was playing it.
That's alright, I can move my save back as well. So
I didn't know if you could move it back.
Oh,
because
yeah, you can move it.
Because Steam's got more things than Xbox has got.
You might not be able to move it immediately.
Yeah.
But we'll be able to move it in 9 days.
Fair enough.
So not the worst thing in the world. But yeah, enjoying the new season for the most part. So the space rig's been cleaned up a little bit. It was starting to feel really cluttered in the last season. I think it had a lot of stuff just hanging around from various. There was a lot of extra stuff everywhere because it was trying to do the rock pox. There's samples of it on the station, so there's creeping all over the windows, and it's they see slimy pulsating tendrils all over things. And this season is just there are 3 tubes, maybe 4 tubes, scattered around, tucked into little nooks, with an example of something you might find in a stage suspended in it as a thing. So that has cleaned things up and made them feel a little bit more open again. It's got some new, or a new mission type. And for this one, it is geodes. Geodes!
Little colourful rocks.
Big ass colourful rocks. So your initially you've got this little proximity scanner at the top left of the screen. And it's going to tell you if you are near any of the things you're trying to go and do. You're going to have to basically follow that. If you're playing with audio on, it will have slightly better ways of helping you find it by sound. But you can just keep an eye on the monitor at the top. And ultimately, in either version, I have always ended up being yep, you know what, I do need to just keep a really close eye and tell when I'm perfectly on top of this thing. You're basically then digging down to try and work out exactly where this particular crystal is, and then calling down a supply pod which will attach to the top of this thing, and then it's going to do a sonic pulse to try and locate the geode which is buried deep underground. Now most of these that I've done have been find 3 of these things and then move on. And 3 hasn't been too bad. It's got an interesting thing with the automatic geometry for the levels.
Yeah.
That it's kind of like a triple helix.
Oh.
They're sort of there's basically like these 3 points, and they're all rotating around each other. And generally, you're going to be looking down a different one of these arms for like a different one of these crystals
geodes,
that you're trying to. Well, not even the geodes yet. Just the crystals that will lead to.
Okay. Yeah.
You're trying to basically triangulate the thing. And 3 makes sense.
Yeah.
Because triangulation.
Yeah.
But I played one in the you know how every season's like got a play this mission to understand how the new systems work.
Yeah.
It's like cool. Played that, and one of them was like do 5. I was like, oh god, it's not super easy to find them. And I think initially I was playing as the gunner, which was just a bit of a pain in the bum. If you're like, yeah, I'm definitely near it, but I'm not in quite the right spiral, so I need to be like one up or one to the side. And it's like, okay, well, this is a bit of a faff. I have found it way less of a faff playing with the driller.
Yeah.
So I would imagine if you have a driller on your team, absolutely perfect for these missions.
Yeah.
Eventually, you will hit the 3 or 5, however many you need to do to get the thing, and it will call down the drill-evator. You then go to the drill-evator, press a bunch of buttons, and starts it up, and it will dig straight down from its position, and you have basically a like an elevator mission in a beat-em-up. You're going to be going down on the thing. There's 4 points around the drill-evator itself, and they're going to need progressively to be fixed, otherwise the whole thing will jam and full stop.
Okay.
Meanwhile, there's enemies just crawling down the tube towards you.
I was going to compare it to like the drill dozer, but I guess it's more like the there's the pump jack, not even the pump jacks. Those things for cracking the big meteors that fell in.
I guess, but you are on a platform that is just descending into
Yeah.
So
but I meant in the sense of it's not something like an enemy got to it and started damaging it. It's constantly going down, and you constantly need to be on it.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Yes. But very much like it's just a thing that constantly needs repairing.
Yes.
And I do like that one of the dwarf lines around that is, why can't the company ever make something that doesn't constantly break? It's like, I mean, that's kind of the game.
Yeah, there would be no gameplay.
So, eventually you get to the bottom of this thing and you realise, like, oh, we've just drilled into the geode. So there's a moment where you go from drilling down the tunnel, just free-falling into the geode until you crash. And then going around the room, cracking open these morkite seeds and getting the little nuts from within. And handing those into Molly. You only need 7 to finish the level. You can get bonus points. There's usually 8 in there. And then you're given some special jet boots. Similar to the jet boots we've seen before, but way more powerful. To the point where, as long as you feather it correctly, you can get all the way back out of the massive frickin' hole you've been drilled into in a couple of seconds. Which I very much appreciate. Obviously, I feel like maybe this is something they've been sort of feeling out for a while, and they were like, you know what, we've checked the technology works, now we can put it into this new mission type we have, and then at that point you can get to the exit, and Molly will eventually come up out of the hole as well, and you can leave as normal. We also have 2 new secondary missions. One is shoot the glowy things on the ceiling, and I think they're called barnacles. And every time I hear the dwarf mention barnacles, I'm always thinking of Barbaras Rubababa.
Barbaras Rubabacles.
Barbaras Barnacles. So there's that. There's a weird little secondary mission similar to the Tylerite key thing, where you'll find this weird purple obelisk type thing. And if you cut into it, there will be a creature inside. If you completely excavate that creature, it will open a couple of rifts, and these weird fucking half humanoid, half rock creatures will come through the cracks and just start leaping around and attacking you. You have like 3 points you're going to have to keep smashing the shit out of the thing you excavated from the thing while you're being attacked, and then after it's like
got through its first stage, it will reset itself back in the rock. You'll have to do a bunch more fighting, and then you'll have to keep excavating it and start again. Again, much easier with the driller. This is interesting, because I think this is the first time we've seen the creatures that I believe were first seen in Deep Rock Galactic Core, in the trailer for that, or in the one of the announcements for that, they were talking about the fact that they wanted, like, very unique creatures from a different part of Hoxis. And these feel very similar to that idea of it's going to be more, like, horror-themed. They're going to be very different to just glyphids. There are other things than just the insects that we've seen already living on Hoxis.
Yeah.
And this feels very similar to that. So that was interesting. Yeah, and then at the end of it, you get a weird little rocket drop pod thing comes down to you, and you have to but feed it the dead thing that you excavated from the crystal and then killed, and send that back up. Fascinating. I am curious if the following season is going to have more plot related to that, because I feel like the first season of this was all about the robots arriving, and the second season sort of progressed that story a bit further. And then I feel like we had a similar thing with season 3 and 4 being very much about, like, rock pox arriving and the meteorites and that whole thing developing. So I'm curious where this develops, and if this is going to be like a whole thing that just evolves into, here's the announcement of Deep Rock Galactic Rogue Core, the new game that they've announced but haven't really told us a lot about beyond, here is some artwork and ideas. But yeah, I'm really enjoying the new season so far. But yes, what tell? Have you done anything else?
No, not really. Well, I've been to roller coasters and now I'm here.
Yeah. Well then, time for this. Okay, got all the notes, got all the interview questions ready.
Oh yes.
Okay, well, it's we've had a lot of candidates this year, but I think we've done our best to whittle down. Hopefully, that will help us get less. Won't have to do too many of these. Okay, bring in the first. Oh, hello. I would like the job, please.
Oh yes. Welcome. Come in.
Hello.
Would you tell me a little about your sort of background in business and commerce?
I got a briefcase. I got this adorable little tie.
Yes, you do.
I would like a job. It's very big in here.
It is very big in here. It's not really.
Windows.
Yes, it's not really answering my question. Like, do you have any former job experience that be applicable to this job role?
Oh, I have a resume, but I can't work the thing on my suitcase no more. I got whittled down too much before the job interview.
Whittled down too much?
I'm too whittle now.
Now? Are you not always?
Well, no, you see, we had to whittle them down because there were too many to do, so we used the whittling ray, and now they're all whittle and small and
I see what you've done.
So do you think he's a good candidate?
I mean, he does have a briefcase.
He does have a briefcase. I've got a briefcase.
So do I.
Excellent. You're hired. Oh, thank you so much. I think I might have a juice box somewhere. Oh, no, apple juice. Welcome aboard.
Oh God, if you heard what they're doing in video games now.
What? What's that?
Oh, they're making them all woke.
Oh, what?
They're making them all woke.
Oh.
It's all insidious. It's all secretive. You ain't gonna see it coming.
No, I mean, Link's Awakening should have been the giveaway there.
Right.
That's
like, you know, first you hear that they, like, you know, occasionally getting consultants in to, like, tell them if their game's woke enough or whatever. But like, you know, I've been hearing some of the strategies they've been doing. It's been getting wild.
Right.
You've got to buy digital games now, not physical.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, because
how are they going to keep selling them to you every year?
Well, I mean, you know, there's that, but also because the video game discs are coated in liquid estrogen now. You touch your game disc, and every time you do, a little tiny bit of estrogen just sneaks into you.
Oh, yeah. Well, that'll have your penis crawling up inside you in no time.
Well, exactly. And,
that's what they want, though, isn't it?
Exactly. You got to mute the game when you're on a loading screen now, because they're sneaking subliminal messaging into the sound effects during the loading screens to trick you into feeling empathy and stuff.
For what?
Well, I don't know. It's some kind of girl thing.
The Roman empathy.
Maybe that's it.
Oh,
I do like Rome.
I love Roman empathy.
Yeah, but no, apparently girls have empathy, so I don't want nothing to do with it.
More Roman empathy, none of this girl empathy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, empathy like what the Romans did.
Yeah. Little stabby swords and that.
Yeah.
So, Laura,
Yeah.
tell us about the things that you looked at with your eyes.
Should we talk about one of the things we looked at with our eyes together?
Together.
Should we talk about the new thing we saw at the cinema?
The nude thing we saw at the cinema.
Yeah, we saw Inside Out 2.
Inside Out 2, Inside Outer again.
Even more Insider Outer. That film was emotionally a lot.
Yeah, I feel like if you're someone who has issues with anxiety or catastrophizing or overthinking, then maybe that film will hit you a bit harder than someone who doesn't have that as a thing.
Yeah, like, look, here's the best way I can sort of prepare you for Inside Out 2 is, Inside Out, the premise, hey, here's a young kid, here is the emotions in their head personified. And the whole basic idea, and I think this is very applicable to, you can teach this to young children, it's very healthy for them to understand, is it is important to feel sadness, it is a useful emotion that is trying to tell you something, and it is not healthy to shut it out. It's cool. That's a very broadly applicable from very young ages emotional thing to talk about. Inside Out 2, hey, puberty, you're going to start dealing with some really complicated emotions that are going to be really hard to see how they're helpful. And time to deal with, I don't think it's too spoilery to say, anxiety. That's a hard emotion to see the valuable possibilities of sometimes. When you are in the middle of absolutely being decimated by anxiety, it's quite hard to see that your body is doing this for any kind of positive purpose that might be channelable.
Yes.
Now watch a teenager deal with absolutely, starting to tear their own life apart, dealing with their own crippling social anxiety.
Yes. And also, the whole, a thing that is pretty common in, teen movies of, oh yeah, I'm growing up now, and I want to be cool, and I want to be all this other stuff, and how that will affect existing relationships and other things.
But I mean, there is nuance to it, 'cause it's not, I am a teenager, now I have emotions, I'm gonna do stupid, self-destructive stuff. It's very specifically, a time of emotional upheaval coincides with an inciting event, and those two things mix together to go, maybe this is time for entirely new me. Oh no, I'm not in an emotionally stable enough place to pull off the radical self-reinvention I'm trying to do. And getting into that spot that's really easy to as a teenager, where you're
Society asks a lot for a young person who's full of hormones and complicated feelings and body changes to make a lot of decisions.
And it's a lot when if you have that teenage moment of, I am gonna reinvent myself and be someone new, and how quickly that can spiral into, oh no, one little white lie or not wanting to correct someone can spiral so quickly in so many ways. Into...
We've all been there and not wanted to correct a cool person who just said that misspoken our name.
Yeah, exactly. And now you live in Michigan. Now you're from Michigan because I don't want to tell the cool person that they heard wrong. Yeah, God, I don't know that I've ever seen as good a media representation of catastrophizing or a panic attack ever. Particularly the catastrophizing really. Not to say the anxiety, the physical anxiety symptoms were not amazing. They really were, but so rarely do you see proper attempts to personify and visually explain what it feels like to have a brain that won't stop throwing a mile a minute, like 1,000 a second, worst case scenarios at you, and how paralyzing that can be.
Yes, there was a confluence of things that came together to make that feel exactly like that feels.
Yes. And the, hey, one or two positive ways this could play out isn't going to outweigh the million ways I can think it could go wrong.
Yeah, and I think in that respect it also does some interesting stuff with toxic positivity, but in this case, internalized toxic positivity.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're open to it with looking at looking at what is happening and how decisions are made in that, and of course based on the first one, that like it is a strong emotion who seems to be making most of the decisions.
The way I sort of interpreted it is there's obviously like Joy as a character in both films very much is making the decisions, but I think it works as a metaphor for like when life is difficult, it's really easy as a human being to default to I will try and power through this and tell myself I'm happy. It's not even that like joy as an emotion for people is necessarily forcing its way to the front. It's really easy as a person to go, I'm going to put happiness at the front and hope that that's enough to make it real, because I would like to believe that's the emotion in my driving seat right now.
Agreed, but I was thinking more along the lines of the strong emotion of joy going, this thing that is the sort of stuff that, you know, to this day very much still haunts me of I got someone's name wrong, something like that.
Yeah.
Joy's character going, there's one of those, I'm just going to grab that and stick it in the yeet as far away as possible machine.
Yeah.
And that very much feels like that. Like, and that at that point when that mechanic is first introduced, it's right at the beginning of the film.
Yeah.
Like, it's just Joy going, nope, we must overpower this, we don't need any of that.
Yeah. It's not a healthy thing for a developing human being to not hold on to any of their embarrassing or anxiety-inducing bad memories. Those are the things you learn from.
Yeah, but also, like, I do understand from the point of view of not wanting to become completely consumed by them.
It can be paralyzing if you let them build up too much. There is a healthy balance.
Well, like a mixture of learn from a thing, don't, 30 years later still go, I can't believe I introduced that person to my friend with the wrong name. I'd only know them a week. That's true. And I'm terrible with names. But also, that will constantly fill me with dread.
Yeah. Hold on to enough of them that you stop making the mistakes so that you don't have to bury repeat examples.
And also, don't get too far up your own arse. Remember that we're all human and we all make little mistakes like these, and it's okay. Yeah.
But also, it was funny.
Oh, it was very funny.
It was very funny. We
did both cry as well.
We did both cry. Yeah, it's, 1 minute there is a hole in the ground that has a pun related to it, and we're giggling at the pun, and then the execution of the pun, and then, oh no, we have to hold hands because this represents something very real, and we're having a moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's much more than the first one. It's a real... I have to watch the train wreck in real time. I can't stop it. The only thing that's going to stop it is a huge crash and trying to pick the pieces up afterwards.
Yeah, I would be curious to, like with the first one, see psychologists react to it. Because I remember enjoying a lot of content of child psychologists and therapists talking about I think this is good for this reason, the way they've explained this, that, and the other, and in many ways, them getting slightly different things from it.
Yeah.
But also, I think you mentioned the fact that because this is based on a teenage girl, they'd basically been screen testing it in front of lots of teenage girls.
Yes,
and I imagine that's a lot of painful feedback.
Yeah, my understanding is they did anonymous rounds of feedback with several groups of teenage girls, just... the quote I saw somewhere was, you've never seen harsh feedback until a teenage girl has told you the things you got wrong about the teenage girl experience. And it's like, yep. But I mean, it shows in the film. It never feels like it is condescending. And I said this after we watched it, but it would have been so easy for a film about a teenage girl with really complicated emotions happening, and particularly the way that they're like very on the surface, being like coming to the surface. It would have been really easy for that to come across a little condescending as, "Oop, you've got girl hormones now. Oh, look at you doing all girl emotions. Oh, you're doing all sorts of irrational things because girl." They avoid that really well.
Yeah.
I was genuinely impressed at how little it ever came across as the chemical that makes you irrational's happening now. It's like, no, it was far better communicated than that.
Favorite new character?
It might be Ennui. I wish they hadn't, and like I get it, it's a children's film, and like I get the reason for the simplification. I wish she hadn't boiled it down as boredom. Ennui is not boredom. Ennui is so much more than boredom.
Yes.
Ennui is like it's the Gen X of emotions. It is it is apathy, it is malaise, it is
a sense of existential dread.
Yeah, that one. I wish Ennui had more of a part. I loved Ennui's design and voice acting. I thought Ennui was great.
Yes.
You?
Just the character, like that is a perfect, like, you must be able to identify a character from a silhouette.
Yes. Also Envy. Envy was great.
Envy was great.
Yeah.
I enjoyed Envy being just a little guy.
I like that Envy wasn't portrayed as a malicious emotion. It was just pure, unfiltered, innocent desire.
Yeah, it was that, like, the thing I appreciate about someone's just, like, being very enthusiastic about the things they see.
It was big, sparkle eyes, grabby hands.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. I think for me it has to be embarrassment.
Yeah.
I feel it. I feel strong, quick kinship. And as somebody whose favourite character from the first film was Sadness, some of the interactions there, I was like, yes, my characters.
I wish embarrassment had more to do in the film. Like, I see it entirely. The problem I had is there was a lot of overlap between Sadness and embarrassment. But I feel like by virtue of being more of a fleshed out character who had more of a role, I find it hard to pick embarrassment as a favourite character because I'm like, I feel like you already kind of did that better with Sadness. And
I think I also appreciated mostly non-verbal character.
I did really appreciate that. That was really nice. That all being said, Anxiety was the one of the new emotions who made me cry.
Yes.
And it was that one moment where everything was crescendoing. I was like,
yes.
Oh, you captured a moment there, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't believe you've intentionally created an autistic character, but also I'm looking at a moment and going, yeah, this could be an autism meltdown being represented, and it wouldn't be far off. It's a good film.
I appreciated it. Fuck Disney, but I did appreciate this.
Fuck Disney, good film. What about you? What you put in your eyes this week?
Well, we could talk about another film we watched at the cinema.
Not a new one, but we did watch another one at the cinema.
It's the first time I've seen it at the cinema.
Well, it's the first time I've seen it at the cinema. I've seen it elsewhere, but
we saw The Matrix.
We did. We saw the first Matrix film in the cinema.
Yeah.
On one of the big screens.
Yeah. It holds up really well.
It really does.
And for the few times I went, that's not terribly well comped, I also went, hang on, I've seen, like, the making of this film, and I know that background isn't real. So for all the other shit that I went, not sure about that, it absolutely still holds up. 99% of the time.
There might be, like, 2 or 3 shots, like the one that sticks in my head is the phone falling when he's out the window.
And the door going across
the door being
burning room.
Exploded, yeah. You know, there's a couple I could point out, but also, like, 99% of the time, like, I forget how much CG that film has in it. It disguises itself well.
Yes. I think in many ways it stands up. It would probably stand up better than Reloaded or Revelation.
I suspect so.
Because I remember looking at the Burly Brawl and so much of it looks great, but there's just a couple of shots of mainly of Keanu, and mainly of that coat,
Yeah.
that just don't quite work, and I don't know why. But then this is the whole thing I found when I worked at the model shop. There is something about Keanu's face that cannot, I believe, be successfully 3D scanned.
Yeah, no, it's the thing that impressed me most about the Unreal Engine 5 demo when it eventually happened is you finally managed to get a halfway decent scan of Keanu Reeves' face. Yeah, like the number of times like toys can't get his face right. Like his
I swear they're all working off like maybe the same scan at some point.
I don't know, his face seems to be
It's always the same kind of weird though.
Yeah, Fuck CD Projekt Red. Cyberpunk scanned his face alright as well. It's
Yeah.
clearly in the last 4 years we've developed Keanu Reeves scannable face technology.
I wonder if they're like the scanning and go, it still looks fucked up. How does it still happening 20 years later? And then some artist is going in there and
It's
arting it
having
up.
to hand make a Keanu.
Hand fix a Keanu.
Yeah.
The platonic form of Keanu.
Yes. So this is your first time watching this, focused watching it since hearing about trans readings of The Matrix, isn't it? Yeah, how was that?
I see it, yeah.
Yeah.
I see it. I feel like we watched this maybe a year or two ago.
I think we
Maybe
watched all
around the
three
time-
of them. I think it was just before we went to see the fourth.
Yeah. Because I think at that point it had been a while for all of them.
Yeah.
And I remember just thinking... I remember being at that time, I was like, oh yeah, I should probably vaguely keep an ear out for that. But again, I think because I'd seen it so many times, I wasn't fully paying attention to it, apart from to go, oh, right, this scene's got really cool effects. I'll look up and enjoy that.
I get you.
I feel like one thing that showed up more than anything else,
Yeah.
it was a thing I knew about from goofs and gaffs and things
Yeah.
people talk about the film, but really cannot ignore it on a big screen. The scene in the subway where Smith is strangling Neo.
Yeah.
And the train's coming.
Yeah.
And Neo does that backflip and clearly just desperately clinging onto the wires, but also trying not to cling onto the wires because he keeps being like, I'm scared for my fucking life. But also, I really, really know that I mustn't touch the thing. He keeps grab him, don't grab him, grab him, don't grab him. It's yeah. It really shows up more. But yeah, great film. I wish they'd kept the original Switch idea. That would have been great.
Agreed. But yes, giving that a dedicated watch. I'm sat there. It's always the Morpheus speech that does it for me, where it's like, you know, that feeling that you have that you can't quite put a name to, but something is wrong, and you don't know what it is, but it's like a little splinter in your mind, and you can't stop being aware of that thing that is wrong. Do you want some help working out what that is? Anyway, pop some estrogen. Pop some estrogen and open your fucking mind up.
Yeah.
Become aware of your body and the fact that it is not a thing that you've got to be conscious of your body now.
Did you grow up during Section 28 and therefore you don't have any of the words to explain the things you need to explain because you'd never met any elders of the type of queer that you are? Cool.
Hey, here's the Oracle who refuses to tell you you're trans because, I have to tell you you're not so that you can then have the, no, fuck you, I am. It's no, you have to face defiance and still go, no, you're wrong, I am. And that's how you'll know that that's right for you.
It's the nicest version of having to go to the GIC to be told you're not trans enough.
Yeah, and then to come back to the GIC going, no, fuck you, try again. It's there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was nice to see that on the big screen.
Yeah. I'm glad finally got to experience that. What about you? Have you watched anything else?
What else have we watched? Let's have a look. I watched that Nintendo Direct that happened.
Yeah, same.
There was some good-looking trailers in there.
Mm-hmm.
Here was my main takeaways.
Yes.
Finally, they're making a Zelda game where you play as Zelda.
Since the CDI.
Yeah, or that one that's a knockoff of the CDI ones that came out recently. Whichever.
Ozette?
Arzette, yes, the Jewels of Faramore.
Yeah.
It's called The Echoes of Wisdom. And I've warmed up on it as the day's gone on, because the first time I watched this trailer, I had a thought.
Give Zelda a sword.
Yes. Because there was an interview that Nintendo gave years ago. This was around the time that Breath of the Wild had its, that E3 where all they did was show treehouse footage of people playing Breath of the Wild.
Horses don't run into trees, that one.
People had gotten it in their head that Zelda was going to be playable, and she wasn't. And people were asking in interviews, like, would you ever make that a thing? And Nintendo's answer basically boiled down to, well, no, because, not unless we think of a reason why she should be the hero, because if she's the hero saving the world, what would Link do? And, like, we're only going to make her the protagonist if we think of a reason that a girl should be the hero. And it's, like, bullshit and sexist and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And this new one, she doesn't have a sword, she has magic item powers, and I was like, cool. I just want you to give her something she can directly attack with. And I've watched this trailer a few more times now, and I've gotten over that feeling. I'm like, because there is a combat system, you defeat enemies, and then summon those enemies to fight other enemies, and it seems like this game is doing a real Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom type thing of, there is going to be a bunch of ways you can approach problems, and it is up to you to look at what tools you have creatively found and put them together in a way that the developers might not have intended to find a solution to a problem.
Mm.
And the example I think that really sold me on, okay, it's maybe not that bad. Maybe I'm okay with the combat system in this and can be less annoyed about it. Is an example where, in order to fight some crows that were circling, Zelda manifested some meat, and the crows came to eat the meat, and then she summoned the piranha plant looking things. I forget what they're called.
Mm-hmm.
One of those to eat the birds while they were distracted eating the meat. And I was like, oh yeah, cool. It clicked in my head. This is trying to do to 2D Zelda games what Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom did for 3D of, sure, maybe we've got dungeons or a linear path or whatever, but also we want you to creatively fuck around with the toolset we give you. And I'm like, I'm okay with that, actually, I think.
It's got that real cute Link's Awakening
yeah, the little claymation
remaster.
chibi toy box style.
Yeah.
My main hope is I hope there are boss fights. Because if we can fight bosses using this stuff as a toolkit, I think that'll be enough for me to be like, okay, it doesn't feel like you sidestep combat because girl.
Yes, and she can summon defeated enemies, so she can basically command armies, which is very princess-like.
Yeah. Because, again, this was making me think of the, and this was one of the other things that clicked for me, was thinking about the Tears of the Kingdom defend the Gerudo village, and being like, yeah, actually, treating combat as more of a ruler commanding small units, summon your little army, like that sort of system, maybe makes sense from the perspective of this is a ruler who's not necessarily getting their own hands dirty, but is commanding units. But yeah, also Metroid Prime 4 footage is finally there, and it looks very pretty, and it looks very sparkly, and I want to play that game, and I suspect it'll be a cross-gen game, and I look forward to playing it on the Switch too.
Also, Four Swords is coming to whatever
Switch
the
Online.
Switch Online thing is.
Yeah, with online multiplayer.
Which means we can play it together without quite so much faff as we would probably have otherwise.
Yes, because the problem with Four Swords Adventure, if you try and play it through other means that might exist to play it on a big screen, is because players can separate from each other and end up in different separate rooms, you have to, through other means to play it on a TV, find a way to get multiple screens visible at once, and it's a whole faff.
Yes.
So this seems a lot more manageable, and that's cool.
I can't remember, was Four Swords one of the ones that you could play with the GBA plugged in as a controller?
That was
Adventures?
Four Swords, not Four Swords. So there's two of them. There's the one that's on the Link to the Past cartridge that is just you play with Game Boy Advances. And there is the separate standalone one on the GameCube, which you play on
Adventures?
I thought that was just Four Swords, but maybe it's Four Sword Adventures. I always get the two of them confused. But that's the one where you play on the TV, and then when you go into a room, it appears on your Game Boy.
Oh, okay.
Which would still be cool to play at some point. Make that easily doable somehow on the Switch, please, Nintendo.
Super.
Yeah, did you watch anything else this week?
I finally, I was a big brave girl, I put my big girl pants on, and I read
Yeah.
Lumberjanes, end of summer?
You did.
Yes.
You did. I held your hand when it was over.
The summer has ended.
Yeah.
Ah.
Well, even if it being over is a lot, how was it?
It was very sweet. I think they did a good job sticking the landing. I mean, they built the stakes up very nicely, and there was some genuinely like, oh fuck moments with a few events that happen. Obviously, I won't spoil it. And then obviously they wrap things up, and very like almost like I feel what it really needed was one of those. Here is a full page the end panel, and it wasn't. It was like seeing a bunch of like them in cars, like across the middle, and then like big panel top and bottom, and then just like a little the end at the end. But then, literally the next page is here's a bunch of like little filler stories. And what I felt it needed was I needed to fade to black so I can just sit with this for a moment.
Yeah, you needed not to be into an epilogue straight away. You needed to just sit in the... And there we are.
It wasn't even epilogue. It was like, this is a story that could have happened anywhere else within the story.
Yeah, no, that's even more not what you need in that moment. It was weird to sort of
dive back to...
You needed room for closure, not to go, it's still sort of happening.
It's still sort of happening. Don't worry, it's not really over, because you can always read the stories. They were very sweet extra stories. I very much appreciated them. There's some storyboarding stuff in there as well. I appreciate that more comic books are doing that sort of like, here is the creation process of how we go from here to here, because I know there's a lot of people who read comic books obsessively and go, I would like to do this for myself, and having some of that behind the scenes, learning about how the sausage is made.
Yeah.
That's a good thing for that. But yes, it's a very good story. It's very sweet. It was nice to see some particular returning characters, and artwork gorgeous as always. Once again, it made me think I want a Lumberjanes tattoo.
Yeah.
Maybe more than one. Who knows? But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm very glad I finally got around to reading it. But I wasn't ready for it to be over. I'm still not ready for it to be over, but it's definitely over now. I believe there's novels. I could maybe try the novels at some point and see how that do. Also, I'm glad that I managed to move that, because that was sort of one that was like right on top of my comic books to read pile. And it's a small one that I can't justify anything else to until I read some more of the things off it. But yes, I'm very glad. Very glad I got through that. What about you? Have you looked at anything else?
No, that's about it for me.
The only other thing I would mention briefly is the final season of Discovery.
Oh, we did, yeah.
Yeah, big, high adventure, explosive drama. Bit of a shame that some of the actors were otherwise engaged. So there were like vast sections of the season where some of the like major bridge crew weren't there, with like no in-universe explanation. But nice to see some returning characters, nice to see a new character. I am curious what happens next, because I can't tell if that's supposed to, like, one of the many epilogues that it did felt very much like it was kind of trying to set up for something.
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah.
Yes, I am genuinely curious about what if we're going to see David Cronenberg's character in the new Section 31 season or what. But yeah, it was beautiful, very sweet. Love all those characters. Now I need more Star Trek with more queer, trans, lovely people going on adventures in beautifully imagined galaxies.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's all I really have to say for that. That isn't spoilers, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did feel a bit hasty, but I'm glad that they were made aware that it was going to be the final season, so they had a chance to like wrap things up. And as I understand it, they were made aware before the season had even aired, so there was none of that. Oh, we got like halfway through a plot point and had to do a whole thing. They have done a reasonably good job of keeping Disco like. Yeah, there is a big overarching plot, but it's quite loose and casual. And generally, like, there is a season arc, and that's, you know, like, apart from that, you're not going to worry about missing too much. I feel like you could dip in pretty much anywhere. But yeah, I very much enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Well then.
Time for this.
Hey Laura,
Yes?
we've got a new sponsor.
Who's our new sponsor?
Well, do you sometimes go on big fancy ride, like maybe a roller coaster?
I do occasionally enjoy that.
And do you wish that you could get a consistent, safe feeling, not too wobbly ride?
Yeah.
Adventure, G-force, sure,
Yeah.
but not too wobble. That make you go, is this supposed to wobble? Is this supposed to rattle? Is that right?
It's not even that for me. I can go fast, I can do the loops and the spins and the sudden drops, but I need to not feel like my head is being placed in one of those things you use to I want a custom colour of paint and it has to shake the paint can. I want my head to not feel like it's in one of those but sideways.
Well then, do we have the sponsor for you, coincidentally? It's gentleridefinder.lol.net. Locate the least rattly seat on a ride. If you're aging and can't handle your head being tossed side to side like it used to, like you're a penny in a washing machine.
I can no longer handle being a penny in a washing machine, it turns out.
If you don't want to be a penny in a washing machine, gentleridefinder.lol.net will tell you which seat is best.
Yeah.
And help you contact the theme park where you're at to make sure that you can get on there in the speediest means possible.
Yeah, I can do all of the G-forces. I just need to not be shaken up like a fizzy drink that's gonna burst.
Mm-hmm.
My teens aren't where I am anymore.
No, I suppose not. Well, that's gentleridefinder.lol.net or the devil fruit that makes you all rubbery, I guess.
Oh, yeah, but then my limbs might get stretchy and get caught up in the mechanism.
Oh no. The mechanisms.
It's fine. I'll tie my rubber limbs up in a knot around the harness. Keep them in place.
Mm-hmm. Please keep your hands and 56 feet of arm inside the carriage at all times. Inside the boardroom of Supremacy Software.
Hi. So, the gamers are whining again.
Aren't they always?
Yeah, but they're particularly loud, and I thought I should at least look at what they're whining about.
Right, okay, yeah, well, check out, Twitter, I guess?
Yeah.
You still using that?
Probably. So, we have that series where the hero goes and saves the princess every time.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's man saves woman.
Man with sword, save woman.
Yeah, man save woman, classic story.
Plot.
Yeah, apparently, some people out there, wokies, want girl save boy.
Woke nonsense.
Right, woke nonsense. But, they keep asking...
Unless it's like a kink thing. Is it a kink thing?
I don't think it's a kink thing.
Oh.
But
Weird.
it's woke nonsense, but they do keep saying they would pay money for it.
Ah, wow.
So,
now you have my attention.
Yeah, so look, if we're gonna do it, it doesn't make sense to just let girl save boy, because
No,
that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, usually last time we had girl protagonist, we said what if emotions or dressing up was the power.
Exactly. So I reckon we do another of those here. So we got to work out what powers what can we do with this princess to make it okay that she's going on an adventure.
Shopping. Can we do shopping? Like she picks up a bunch of stuff and she's carrying shopping bags around.
She's got to fight off the evil Cookie Kingdom.
Oh, yeah.
It's the land of vaguely cute but maybe threatening sweetie people.
Yeah, and maybe there's a hilarious salad side character.
Oh, of course there is. And you don't attack the enemies per se.
No. You wouldn't want to break a nail or whatever.
No. You knit them a nice wool sweater and then they befriend you or something.
Right. Yeah. It's like that guy who plays D&D with his kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, you befriend the wolves and the monsters and all the other stuff.
Exactly. But not in a way where not in a way where they're gonna do a combat or anything afterwards.
No,
you just
no.
you give him a kiss and then go, oh, don't be mean, and that's the big final boss fight.
You are a woman understanding genius.
I know the most about women.
I mean, you've got all those books about picking them up.
So, Laura,
Yes?
you listen to some things. You put some things in your ears.
I put a couple of bits in my ears.
Tell us.
Not a huge amount, but
Same.
I was reminded of the existence of a band that I will occasionally forget about for a while, then I'll remember, then I'll go, oh, they do have that one album that's really fucking good. A band called Billy Talent.
William Talent.
A band that is definitely on the list of, like, I listened to them in my teens, and they'll always sort of be that for me. But the album of theirs that I think is their masterpiece is not one of the ones I was listening to when I was a teenager.
Right.
It is one random album from, I think it was like 2016. So like a little while back now. But the album is called Afraid of Heights, and it is start to finish bangers. It is a very good, energetic rock album that has a lot of very danceable tracks that are like very eclectic in the sounds they use. They're very like, we're going to use a soundscape to create a story and a narrative. Every track sounds very distinct on it. The opening track on the album is called Big Red Gun, and it is it's one of those tracks that if you don't stop and listen to it, it's just like, yeah, here's a fun track to dance to, and then you listen to it and it's like, oh, this is a track that's very clearly about, like, American right-wing gun enthusiasts and their fear of unseen, imagined woke threats, and their willingness to take up arms in response to the nebulous something that's coming for us.
Whatever Fox News told them to be angry about.
Exactly. I'll shoot at the setting sun if that's what I'm told is, you know, the thing that's out to get me. Clearly has done me no wrong, but nah, don't trust it over there.
The eclipse. The eclipse. I must shoot the eclipse.
Yeah. It's it is a heck of a track to open that album on. It goes straight from that into the title track of the album, Afraid of Heights, which is one of my favorite tracks on the album. The whole album, start to finish, is it reminds me of something like MCR's Danger Days, in as much as, like, it plays around a lot with little genres and telling story with, like, quite clear visual motifs described. Fascinating album. I was glad to be reminded of its existence.
Yeah.
What about you? You listened to anything this week?
Yeah, I finished listening to the Dark Eyes quadrilogy box sets. I listened to Dark Eyes 3 and 4. It felt like it got way more back on track from the story that it had started as opposed to... If the second one certainly felt like it was going somewhere different. The third one had a very different vibe overall, but felt like it was trying to do an awful lot of things at once. And then the fourth one really brought it all home and back together really well, and felt more like it was really tapping into where the story had gone initially. And I don't know if that was because I know there was some other writers involved in some of the box sets, so that was a bit much. But without spoiling too much, the fourth one is weird noises in Paris. There is a red pavilion. No one quite knows what happened to the red windmill. The Moulin Rouge is not there, but there is this large red pavilion. What could it be? What's that all about? Who knows? I'll never tell. Also, what is that sound of creature being tortured? Attacking someone? What is any of the thing going on in the background? But it's still got that vibe of bohemian artist types doing, like, living their best life and living slightly hedonistically, drinking too much champagne and absinthe and painting their hearts out, or whatever their muse of choice is. But yeah, it's a fascinating book set, and I can see why people recommended that as a good place to look into all of the extended Doctor Who stuff from someone who's, like, listened to little bits here and there, but hasn't, like, seriously listened to any of that stuff for probably a decade. Yeah, it was nice to dip into. What about you? Have you listened to anything else?
I continued listening to Welcome to Night Vale.
Yes.
And I made it to a pair of episodes, maybe like 110-ish in, where I got the backstory of a character, what's their name?
A story about Hunter Carr.
Yes, Hunter Carr the Destroyer. Their story absolutely broke me, followed by a certain very, very disparaged character finally getting their moment. We've talked about Welcome to Night Vale before. Fictional desert town, listen to the weird radio station stories. This has been the peak of the show for me so far. It's definitely built back its momentum up after the audiobook happened.
The first novel, yeah.
The first novel. It's definitely reaching a point where it's like, oh, some of the weird unexplained shit is getting explained. And usually I'm very dubious of giving a concrete explanation for the cause at the heart of the weirdness of a place that is built on its weirdness. But they pulled it off so well.
I think when the weirdness, the explanation is as weird as the weirdness.
Yeah, it's answered a question while creating a dozen new ones, and I think that's the way to do it, is to go like, we're going to explain the thing, the moment that caused it all, but not like, that's not going to help you like do anything about it. You're just going to have to live with it being the way it is a bit.
A little bit.
Yeah, it's... Oh, I do enjoy Night Vale.
Yeah, I think that is some of the best Night Vale that there is, and I'm glad you got there, and we can talk about these next few adventures as they come along, because there's some good stuff around here. Some interesting stories gonna happen, and that itself being, I think, like an exceptionally good episode. Yeah. It's not been a big heavy listened week this week, but that's okay, because you're a sleepy little bean.
I am a sleepy little bean.
Maybe next week we'll be more awake and more listening.
I'm a sleepy little bean with a throat that's done many screams and.
Yes, you've done the. I've been at a gig screaming at a band I like, and now I have the little cough.
I got home and I realised, I did quite some screaming today.
I used my voice. I know.
I mean, I think I've held enough voice on to do a podcast.
I think so, yeah.
But I can definitely feel it going.
Oh, little croaky bean. It's okay. Yeah. Well then,
time for this.
You know, it's about time we start thinking about the 2025 roster of films. Probably need to start getting everyone signed on, ready for those. But you know, we've had lots of hero movies recently. We had lots of adventures.
Yeah,
there's always these things. You know, obviously, very often the child is the chosen one, because obviously we're trying to get children in cinemas.
Yes.
Occasionally it's, a child who, gets a superpower and they're suddenly an adult, and that's a whole thing. That's closest. But, what we need is more adults as superheroes, I think. I think we need a more understandable, a respectable... A true underdog, a real hero, some smart, cool, a real man of the people, a man at the head of a thriving company, possibly, they make movies.
Oh, exactly.
They've maybe got several yachts, and they're very popular and beloved.
I'm glad we're on the same page on this. A true underdog story.
Yes, about an exec like ourselves.
Yes, underdogs like us.
Underdogs like us, the downtrodden, stomped upon. No one would have believed that a hero could rise from such noble, wonderful people such as ourselves, who constantly throw ourselves on the sword of public opinion because, we're just so selfless to the art of cinema. So, I have decided that we need more public transport, okay?
Oh, yeah,
People need to get from A to B, and they need to do it by paying me vast amounts of money.
I mean, that goes without saying.
Right. But, most forms of like public transport,
Yeah,
they're good, they're efficient, sure, like, and people say trains are the best one, it's simple, it's clean, it's efficient, but what if we could do that, but like more extreme?
Exactly. Where's the fun? Where's the pizzazz? Where's the doing maybe an upside down loop in the middle just to keep you awake so you don't fall asleep and miss your stop?
Exactly. People fall asleep on the subway all the time. If they were pulling 6Gs, they probably wouldn't do that. Upside down, sideways, corkscrew through Madison Square Garden.
Exactly. They'd also probably get to work faster, cut their commute down if we fired them, with the force of 1,000 suns, just, not to 60 in a tenth of a second.
Yeah, I think we have invented the ultimate form of train.
Isn't that just a roller coaster?
You're fired.
Very fast.
Out of a cannon.
Doing a loop.
On a rail. Choo-choo.
Do you know what I want to see more of?
What do you want to see more of?
Social justice warriors.
Social justice warriors?
Yeah.
All right, Larry.
All right, Mary. How you doing?
Oh, it's been appreciating people's sons. Give them a brain. Yeah, you doing all right, mate?
Doing all right. I did have a brief instance of a thing today that sparked me thinking about a thing.
Right.
And, it's I know it happens, but it's rare that I don't come across it super often. But
certainly hear about it though.
Yeah. I was having one of those incidences where someone decides to be very nosy about an invisible disability because they as a non-disabled person make the value judgment of, you don't look disabled, what's wrong with you? And thankfully I was in a situation where, there was someone in a position of authority around to go, that's really, not an okay thing to ask, and to sort of step in quick enough that it, was diffused.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that was, mentioned, because, too often the old bystander effect kicks in and nothing gets done. And
it was someone who was in a position of authority that, if the other person had kicked off, they could have done something about it, but it always catches me off guard. I always know it's a possibility, but so many people, particularly when, it usually surfaces around when someone perceives that you're getting a benefit that they don't get, and they want to know, why do you get it?
The kind of person who goes, why should you get fast track through an airport? Oh, well, I'm just going to tell them I need a wheelchair when I don't,
exactly.
And therefore create multiple problems for other people.
A classic example you see is people parking in disabled spots in car parks and going, well, you don't look disabled enough to need that parking space. A lot of the time it'll be someone with the parking spaces one, you see it a lot where it's people who are old will go, well, I could have parked there and I'm old, so I could have benefited from it. Why are you allowed to benefit from it? It's like, well, complain at the system that is not giving you the accommodations. Don't interrogate a person about their need for accommodation. That's not your fucking business.
And also, maybe if you feel that you're disabled enough to require such a thing in your old age, that maybe you look into, applying for, the sorts of things.
Get it recognised in such a way that, you could make use of these things.
Yeah.
But it's the entitlement that comes down from, I perceive you are not getting a reasonable accommodation. The way they see it is, you're getting a perk. I don't think you should have perk. Justify your perk to me.
Yeah, they've got more rights than everyone else already. What do they lack? That kind of thing.
And even in a situation where, it's like, hey, person who's parking in a disabled space, maybe they're parking closer to the door, but they're probably going to be in more pain or slower while doing that walk. It's, it is to accommodate something that is set in the back, not to, push them forward into, saving time compared to you.
Because they probably won't save time.
Exactly. So, I know it happens. It always catches me off guard when it do, though, because, it's...
Yeah, especially if you're lucky enough that it doesn't happen very often. I think then it tends to be that it hits you all the more.
Yeah.
Because you're a little bit off guard from a little bit out of practice.
That's it. I've had it happen before. It's just been a while since it's happened. It's sort of like, oh, we playing the greatest hits, are we?
Yeah. I'll get you, mate. I'll get you. Fancy young mate.
Oh, yeah.
Good dog, mate. Good dog.
Good dog.
Right, I think I'm going to put the kettle on.
Oh, sounds nice.
Nice.
So, where can we find you on the internet?
I can be found pretty much everywhere on the internet at Laura K. Buzz, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, Patreon, that's the one that pays the bills, Blue Sky, Mastodon, just Laura K. Buzz. You'll find me in all of the places. If you are around London on Thursday the 27th of June, I will be doing a talk in the evening at Waterstones, Piccadilly, doing a talk with a bunch of other trans authors and doing a little signing. If you want to hear me and some other trans authors talk about trans stuff and then sign some stuff in the big fancy London bookshop, you go and check that out. There's tickets available online. That'll be happening. What about you? Where are you at on the internet?
Well, I don't have unified branding, but I do have a link tree. It's linktree.ee/Janiac, JANEIAC. You can find all the music I've made, the things I've written, the t-shirts I've designed and so forth, at linktree.ee/Janiac, JANEIAC. You can help support me at patreon.com/stonedmonkeyradio. As little as $1 a month really helps out and is very much appreciated. You can also find me on another podcast, Humans Holler at News, where we holler at news with the lovely Lauren Yellingenby, and we have fun discussing entertaining news stories from the time of around when we record and stuff. We have a silly time. It's good. Come check it out if you have not already. That's pretty much it for me. So Laura,
Yeah?
will you sing us out, please, darling?
Until next time, be a stranger.